What is going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guy Cody here joining us. It's been a while, but welcome back to the show, Matt, from Inside the Horseshoe Podcast. Matt, how you been, man?
I've been doing as well as you can as a Colts fan, which, for the normal
Dude, I
person,
tell you
it's
what,
nothing.
man. Whew. It's been one of those years, man,
Yeah,
where you just look at the Colts and it's to the point where I think the majority of Colts fans are pretty much like unfazed,
yep,
and you just have to sit back and be impressed at how this team finds ways to lose,
yep.
especially after this latest collapse, the biggest collapse in NFL history in the regular season and actually of all time as well. So, but yeah, with that, just talking about this Colts team,
Wait,
obviously a huge
you were
disappointment.
talking about the Cowboys, right? That Cowboys game? Because
Oh,
after the first half
yeah.
yesterday, I tuned it out. I went to a family dinner. I was like, look, we're going to win 33-0. Let's
Mm,
go. I did debate before leaving about putting money just for, giggles on the Vikings to win, like $10 at halftime.
yeah.
But, hey, we won, right?
Oh gosh. I tell you what, I had so many people like my brother, he was like watching it and he went out and did something with
Yeah,
some friends and he didn't like check the game. And I told him, I'm like, yeah, the Colts lost. He's like, nah,
yeah,
you're lying. Like, there's no way. They were up by 33 points. And I'm
yeah.
like, I know, but I watched it with my own two eyes.
Yeah,
They blew the
it
lead.
was
And
bad.
it's just like, yeah, it's like when you tell people that, it's almost like they're just like you're lying. They don't believe you because
Right.
it's so unbelievable that the team would do that. But that's been the case with the Colts this year. The great news is they definitely have helped their draft
Mhm.
position. We're recording this before the Monday night matchup. If the Rams were to win, the Colts will go up to pick number 5. Right now they sit at pick number 6 overall in the NFL draft. And moving on to kind of the topic of this video, Matt, looking at the Colts, the Indianapolis Colts in specific, this team has had some moments where they haven't been good, right?
Right.
Especially in the 90s. They really struggle, the 80s and 90s. This team really struggled to find its footing. But I want to pose this question, I guess kind of a two-part question. Number one, is this like one of the most disappointing seasons? Because we look at where the Colts were projected. I mean, I think we were kind of like, I don't know if they're a Super Bowl team, but they could certainly win the division,
Yeah.
right? That's the barometer they need to get to this
Right.
year. We all had like, they're going to make the playoffs. Matt Ryan's an upgrade. This team's ready to roll.
Mhm.
And to see where they are now from, where they were at the beginning of the season to where everybody thought they were to where they've gone. The first question I have here, Matt, in the last 15 to 20 years, is this the most disappointing Colts team you've seen based off of expectations, not necessarily the record, but where the Colts were projected to be versus
Yeah.
where they are now? What do you think?
I mean, it's got to be one of the most disappointing seasons, if not the most disappointing that I've seen, at least. Because you're right, there's a lot of expectation to bring in Matt Ryan, which going into the season, a lot of people thought he was the quarterback that was going to get this team over, that bump, get them over the hill, and get them at least into the playoffs as a division winner. Then you add Stephon Gilmore, you add Yannick Ngagwe, you add all these different pieces too, and it just felt like they were going to win the division and they were going to make a run in the AFC. Maybe even get to the Super Bowl is what some people were thinking with some of the talent they had. But I mean, you think about that, and then you look at us now. There's a chance we could have the second pick. Like, I don't think anybody ever thought that was gonna happen. I mean, we're like a game and a half from the second pick. It's insane. It's crazy. So it absolutely has to be. I mean, I've seen some pretty bad years. Obviously, the suck for luck. That was awful. It was almost disappointing that we almost got the second pick that year because Dan Orlovsky was just starting to win games at the end of the year. That was the only disappointing thing about that season. But yeah, it has to be. This has to be one of the most disappointing years.
Well, you look at where the Colts were and kind of the narrative all off season, and I'll admit we fell into this. Like I
Yeah,
know we did for sure, but like the idea and kind of this is something I heard amongst Colts fans and amongst like media and just everything was
yeah,
like the Colts are just a quarterback away.
Mhm.
That's what we all heard. Carson Wentz was not it. The Colts, if they can upgrade at quarterback, they're a team that's gonna win the Super Bowl basically, or they're
Right.
gonna make a deep playoff run. And I think we all fell for that trap, and we didn't realize there's a lot bigger issues, Matt, with this team beyond just the quarterback. Obviously, the quarterback is a huge one the Colts need to figure out, but head coach is now one they need to figure out.
Yeah.
Still have to figure out left tackle. They still don't have a number one edge rusher, although some of the young guys have played well. And really, what are you going to do about the GM? I don't know
Right.
how Chris Ballard lasts especially after the last 2 weeks.
Right.
So yeah, this team based off of where they were projected,
Mhm.
because even you talk about like the suck for luck year,
Yeah.
like Peyton Manning was out that year.
Yeah.
So the expectations after that were very low. Like the
Mhm.
Colts have been relatively healthy this entire year, and they've just
Right.
stunk it up, man. They've stunk it up.
Yeah.
And, the last 2 weeks, it's like almost elevated itself in the second half, or the Colts have been outscored. I believe it's like 72-9. It's been that
It's
freaking
bad.
bad in the
And
second half. And so based off of the aspirations this team had,
Yeah.
right? Based off of what was at stake, for not just, the players, but for the head coach, for the GM, for them to come out and just perform the way they have,
Mhm.
it's nothing short of the most embarrassing in the last, I think, 15 to 20 years
Yeah.
for this Colts team.
Yeah.
For a team that we'll even say, man, they have talent. Like they still do, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But their offense is just so bad.
Yeah.
It gets historically bad.
Like, in my opinion, I feel like me compared to other Colts fans, I feel like we're a little closer. Like, I agree, need a head coach. Um, I'd be cool with Jim Harbaugh. As a Notre Dame fan, I'd be happy for Michigan to lose their head coach. But also, Jim Harbaugh, I think he could work, especially with a young quarterback, or get one of the young OCs like a Ken Dorsey, Ben Johnson, I believe is his name from Detroit. Get one of those guys to be head coach. Keep Gus Bradley. Keep you know Bubba Ventrone, keep those guys in there because I think they've done a good job. I know Colts give up 33 points in the fourth quarter to Dallas. I know they gave up 36 points in the second half to Minnesota, but the offense did nothing. They couldn't keep the ball for more than like 2-3 minutes in the second half. Eventually, the defense is going to get tired. So I'm not as upset with the defense. The defense honestly played good enough to where if your offense could hold on to the football, you should have won that game. Like, absolutely. I mean, you got
Easily.
two touchdowns from defensive special teams. You got the blocked punt that went for a touchdown and then the pick six. It's like,
Yep.
I mean, defense played pretty well, despite what the score was and whatnot. But like, I'm cool with the defense. I've been pretty happy with Yanni after the slow start he had. I've been pretty happy with him. So if they sign him on a cheaper deal, I'd be cool with bringing him back and then maybe drafting a guy in the second round. I think Texas Tech, there's an edge rusher that's supposed to be really good. You can bring him in and have him be a part of the rotation for a year or two, and then let him start over Yannick. But what I think we need to do is, get a right guard, get a young quarterback, maybe add another receiver to this team in like the second round. And I think we're pretty good. I'm willing to give Bernard Ryman another year as a starting left tackle because I thought he's been getting better and better as the season's been going on. And I think if you give him an off season to actually prepare as a starter, I think he'll be pretty good. And hey, if he stinks, there's a left tackle next year's draft named Joe Alt, who is the best left tackle in college football, and he's a sophomore. So, you could bring him in if Bernard Ryman isn't the answer. So I think we're
I think you
close
have to.
somewhat, but
Yeah.
I think we're I wouldn't draft one in the first 2 rounds, a left tackle. Maybe get one for depth, but let's give Bernard Ryman the year as a starter. I think he's played good enough to at least have a tryout for next season. Because, like I said,
Well, I think you have to certainly bring him in some competition, though.
yeah,
You
bring
can't
in.
just hand him that.
I would draft a guy in like the third or fourth round, but I don't think I wouldn't draft a guy in the first round because you got to get a quarterback, and then really second round, there's really nobody worth taking at that point. So third round, fourth round, somewhere in there, maybe for competition. But like I said, if Bernard Ryman doesn't work out, you can draft a guy in the first round next year or in the following draft.
Yeah, right. Yeah, because if you have a rookie quarterback, it might not go great the first year. You might have a
Right.
higher pick again. You don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, this Colts team, going back to kind of the topic, the most disappointing
Yeah.
season in a long time. Now, let me ask you this question. Let me
Yes.
expand it further. And this is probably a little bit too extreme, I'll admit. But is this the most, based off of expectations like we talked about,
Yeah.
is this the most embarrassing and disappointing Indianapolis Colts team of all time? Would you go there? I don't know if I would.
Ah, I wouldn't go most embarrassing. There were some teams in the '90s that were just god awful. I mean, it was at the point to where you had as Jake Query said, you had a bunch of people come in after church to watch the game. It's like, okay, it's a football game, whatever. Yeah, there were some '90s teams that were really, really bad.
Yeah.
These last 2 weeks, the collapses they've had, yeah, those are definitely some of the most embarrassing second half slash fourth quarter performances I may have ever seen. Um, but as far as the season goes, I think the '90s had some teams, and even the '80s, that were much more embarrassing than what we're seeing right now. I mean, those were some really bad teams.
Like I just have the one pulled up of the worst Colts team of all time, the
Yeah.
1991 Indianapolis Colts. I mean, you think this Colts offense now is bad? That team didn't even average 10 points a game. That's how bad it
It's
was.
bad.
Jeff George, all those guys. It
Yeah.
was just so I don't think it's, maybe because I don't know what the expectations. I mean, Jeff George obviously was taken number one overall.
Yeah.
So maybe the expectations were probably there for him, but
Yeah.
nobody was saying right off the gate, Jeff George and the Colts are going to go to the Super Bowl.
No.
But people were legitimately saying that before the season. So
Yeah.
you could make a case for it potentially.
Yeah.
While the team might not be as bad, certainly have more talent,
Yeah.
just the disappointing factor, I think, is certainly still there.
Yeah, I mean, that's true, but again, I think, yeah, like you said, '91 team, they couldn't even score more points per game than Denver. The fact that
Yeah.
Denver's offense, who is probably the worst in the league, is playing even though the last couple weeks they've actually played better, and that's because of Marlon Mack, but still, what they're averaging a game for most of the season was horrible. That '91 team was even worse.
Yes. 100%. So, yeah, guys, we just wanted to have a conversation after the Colts' latest loss on Saturday afternoon, where they blew a 33-point lead, largest lead blown in NFL history. Just
Yeah,
talking about how disappointing it's been. Congrats, Colts. Hang the
look at
banner
that.
for that one.
History, ladies and gents. History
Yes.
was made.
Unfortunately, that's the only history we're making nowadays. So,
Oh,
that's where the Colts offense is. Obviously, this offseason, I do feel like, Matt, it's got to be basically all offensive centric for the
oh
rebuild.
yeah,
Starting
absolutely.
with the quarterback,
Mhm.
you got to get a coach or coordinator that, can work with that young quarterback.
Yeah.
You need to get some more protection for him. And I think if you're able to do that, you may have some lumps. That's probably how it's going to go. That's
Yeah.
how it always seems to go with most rookies. But at least you have the guy in the building that you think is going to be your franchise guy for the next
Right.
10 to 15 years. So, but as it stands for the 2022 Colts, history will not remember them fondly, and we won't either. We're almost to the point, man, where we can just forget about this team and move forward into the future.
Yeah.
Thank goodness, because I can't watch this Colts offense anymore for the life of me. It's killing us, and I think it's honestly, Matt, one of the other rare forms of torture. If they really need to get some information and the guy's not spilling it,
Yeah.
they just show clips from the Colts offense in 2022, and that would break
Yeah.
just about anybody. So
Yeah. Just show all the Matt Ryan fumbles. Show the
God. I don't even
picks.
know. I've lost count how many he has this year
I
anymore.
don't know. He had one yesterday, or Saturday. Had that one
Ugh.
where he lost and he just kind of pushed it forward. That way, Alec
Just
Pierce could land on it.
whoop.
Just kind
Yeah.
of pushed it.
I'm just like, dude, that's
I mean,
literally what Carson Wentz does.
yeah, but I mean,
What in the
hey, he was able
world?
to get that ball away from the defensive linemen that were around him. He was able to just smack that ball right to Alec Pierce so he could recover it.
Yeah, like it was designed, right?
Yeah. Ah, that was what
Oh
a
my
game.
gosh. It's just what can you do but laugh right now,
Yeah,
at the
you
state of
have
this
to laugh.
offense and this team.
It's
So
a
I feel bad for
comedy.
this defense.
Life is a
Yeah.
comedy, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep. it's just like I'm numb and I don't care anymore this year. That's kind of where I think a lot of Colts fans are. So, including me, including you, I'm sure, including Derek, we're to that point.
We get to celebrate Christmas the day after Christmas with the Indianapolis Colts and the Chargers.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, great.
I can't wait. Yes. Absolutely. Well, that's going to do it, guys, for our kind of look here at the Colts, talking about one of the most disappointing seasons, certainly in a long time for this team. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you, Matt, for coming on. Always a pleasure having you on.
Bye.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Really appreciate all the support. And as always, guys, go Colts to a top 5 draft position.
Number 2, we're coming.